Alexander Grant had built a life where silence followed him, not the peaceful kind, but the fearful kind. In New York City, his name carried weight heavier than steel, and people moved out of his way before he even entered a room. Assistants rehearsed their words before speaking, reporters avoided asking tough questions, and even his board refused to contradict him. But power came with a cost. After a disastrous week of tanking stocks, public criticism, and a scandal he didn't see coming, Alexander felt something he hadn't felt in years, the burning need to escape before he shattered under his own expectations. Arizona became his refuge, miles away from polished skyscrapers, echoing traffic, and the relentless flashing of cameras. He rented a remote cabin near the cliffs, craving nothing but cold air and quiet nights. The desert, covered in rare winter snow, appeared almost unreal. Driving through the winding mountain roads, he inhaled the silence like medicine. But peace lasted only minutes. As he turned along a narrow bend, something small on the roadside made his heart jolt. A thin, unmoving shape, too still to ignore, forced him to slam the brakes and step out into the freezing wind. The sight hit him like a punch. Beneath a fallen tree lay a young Apache child, shivering uncontrollably, cheeks hollow, lips cracked from cold. Snow clung to his hair, his tiny hands were curled against his chest in a desperate attempt to stay warm. For a man who never hesitated in boardrooms, Alexander felt fear grip him for the first time as he scooped the boy into his arms. He rushed him to the cabin, shedding his coat, wrapping the child in every blanket he owned, and lighting the fireplace with shaking hands he couldn't quite control. The next 4 days felt like stepping into a different life, a slower one, a quieter one. Alexander fed the boy spoonfuls of warm soup, helped him drink water, and stayed awake through nights of coughing and whimpering. He tried calling authorities again and again, but every attempt failed. The storm had wiped out communication for miles. The boy spoke only in Apache, whispering short, frightened phrases that Alexander couldn't understand. Yet the fear in the child's eyes spoke louder than words. The ruthless billionaire found himself whispering reassurances he never thought he was capable of offering. Slowly, the child improved, sitting up, holding the cup of tea with trembling hands, even managing a faint smile when Alexander left extra wood by the fire. The snowstorm outside had calmed, but inside the cabin, something else had changed. Alexander felt a strange warmth toward the child, a protective instinct he didn't know he possessed. For years, he had been surrounded by people who feared him, respected him, or needed something from him. But this boy needed nothing except safety. And somehow, caring for him made Alexander feel more human than any billion-dollar deal ever had. On the fourth morning, golden sunlight spilled across the cliffs, signaling the storm's end. Alexander was preparing breakfast when the sound exploded. Boom. 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 Shaking the cabin walls. He froze. No one should have been able to reach this remote area so soon after the storm. Heart pounding, he walked to the door and slowly pulled it open. What he saw on the snowy porch instantly tightened his chest. 3 Apache women stood there, wrapped in traditional woven shawls, eyes filled with exhaustion, fear, and a desperate hope. In that moment, Alexander knew, his world was about to change in ways no one could have predicted. Snow dusted the shoulders of the 3 Apache women as they stood silently on Alexander's porch, their shawls heavy with frost and worry. Their faces told the story before their words ever came, red eyes, trembling breath, and the unmistakable exhaustion of people who had been searching for days without rest. Snowflakes clung to their hair like frozen tears, shimmering in the morning light. The moment their eyes fell on the child behind Alexander, their posture shifted from fear to overwhelming relief. One woman covered her mouth with her hands, trying to hold back a sob that escaped anyway. The eldest woman finally stepped forward, her movements slow, almost reverent, as though she feared the moment might break if she moved too quickly. Her voice trembled, but beneath it lay an ancient strength passed from mother to daughter for generations. "We've been searching for our lost child," she whispered, her eyes shining. "The storm separated us. We feared," her voice broke, but she gathered herself. "Thank you, for keeping him alive." Alexander, who was rarely caught speechless, felt a lump form in his throat, something unfamiliar and uncomfortable. The child didn't hesitate. The moment he recognized them, he rushed forward, his tiny legs stumbling through the snow. The 3 women fell to their knees, wrapping him in their arms as if they could protect him from every storm that might ever come. Their cries were raw, releasing days of fear, sleepless nights, and the terror of imagining the worst. Snow fell softly around them, the world quiet except for their emotional reunion. Alexander stood back, watching a scene so intimate and powerful that even his hardened heart couldn't escape its pull. For years, Alexander had walked through life untouched by emotion, cloaked in wealth and authority that shielded him from vulnerability. But now, something in his chest warned, a feeling he hadn't experienced in so long he almost didn't recognize it. Gratitude, compassion, humanity. He stepped back into the cabin doorway, humbled. When the eldest woman rose and turned to face him again, her expression had changed from desperation to deep respect. "You saved him," she said softly. "And in our people's way, a kindness like that must be honored." Alexander tried to protest, insisting that he needed no repayment, but the woman shook her head gently. "Not payment," she said. "An honoring." She reached into a pouch hanging from her shoulder and pulled out a small hand-carved symbol, a protective token. But instead of placing it in his hand, she paused, her gaze searching his face. It was as if she saw something beneath the billionaire exterior, something even Alexander himself rarely acknowledged. What she said next left him stunned. She explained that her community was hosting a private cultural ceremony, one rarely shared with outsiders, and they wished for him to attend. The words hit him harder than any business negotiation ever had. It wasn't money. It wasn't a gift. It was an invitation into a world he had never taken the time to understand. A chance to witness traditions older than any building he had ever constructed, older than the wealth he had spent his life chasing. She added that someone important within their community wanted to meet him, someone who would challenge everything he believed about power, humility, and what truly mattered in a human life. As the women prepared to leave with the child, Alexander felt it, an unmistakable twist in his fate. His life was about to change in ways he never expected.